Hey everyone, welcome. This is Jason Clemens, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and this is Life with Jason Clemens, DC. We are live right here in the Rock Health and Wellness Centers in Lubbock, Texas, on this beautiful Wednesday, June the 4th. We're on 98.7 Walk by Faith Radio. We're on 1420 AM. We're on 987radio.com. We're on all of our social media pages, the Rock Health and Wellness Center on Facebook. We're on at Health from the Rock on YouTube and Jason Clemens DC on X, and we will shortly be on the Walk by Faith Facebook page as well. So hope you guys had a great day. As always, it's been a great day at the Rock. We've been busy all day long, taking care of people, and now we're ready to talk to you. And I want to say thanks for the comments and the text I got last night, and the response I got from the show last night. I appreciate that. This is a unique show because a lot of times what we're doing is we're just bringing it to you real and live and uncut, unedited. Sometimes you probably wish it would edit some of it. I don't blame you on that, but it is live and it's real. And when we do things like last night, when I go over my blood work, I'm just simply trying to share with you just real life stuff. Right? That's it. And I don't have to get anybody's permission because it's my own stuff. So I just wanted to share with you, hey, if you're dealing with high A1C, or you're dealing with some sort of thyroid issue, or you've got some sort of testosterone issue, or your spouse does, and you would like to have some real evidence about what healthy eating and exercising can do for you, and getting adjusted. I get adjusted every week. What those things can do for you, that's what that show was about last night. So if you missed it, you can go back and catch it. You can go to the Walk by Faith Facebook page. You can go to our Facebook page at the Rock Health and Wellness Centers, or you can catch it at Health from the Rock on YouTube, and you can watch any of those shows there. So some of the comments I got were interesting. I got some scriptures sent to me. I do appreciate that. One of them is my favorite scripture, or one of my favorite scriptures that I got sent to me. I got some comments. One of my good friends from Roswell, MJ, he sent me a text last night, and he said, wonder sometimes where the let's see what he said, where the normals come from. He said, listening to the show, I sometimes wonder if the blood work standards were established with healthy people. Were they established with medicated people? Yeah, that's a great question. Where did they get the norms? I understood at one point, I think in chiropractic school, we talked about blood pressure, and it was my understanding they took 20,000 people on the East Coast of the United States. They took 20,000 people on the West Coast of the United States. They averaged their blood pressure, and they came up with a number. And they said, hey, that's an average blood pressure over 40,000 people. Is that true? I don't have any idea. And I know that sometimes those numbers get manipulated based on pharmaceutical companies wanting to sell more product or whatever, right? That's okay. What I just need to know for myself when I'm going through those numbers, I just kind of need to know for myself, like, where was I versus last time? Apparently there's a normal, or a normal range. There's apparently a normal range, right? And we got to start somewhere. We got to kind of look at it and say, okay, well, maybe it's like with vitamin C and vitamin D and those sort of things, the levels are based on not being sick. Like, whether you get scurvy or rickets or whatever, if you got to have your levels above that, not necessarily optimal. And A1C at 5.3, could that be lower? Absolutely, it could be lower. But what we know, at least in the medical world, is that I'm not diabetic. According to that number, I'm not diabetic, and that's good to know. I mean, the people that do sick care, they say I'm not diabetic. Could I work on it from an optimal health standpoint? Probably. I could get it into an even better level. But the sick care people say I'm not diabetic, so that fits in that realm. At least I know something that's going on. And I can tell you that my blood pressure is down like 6-8 points today. just after taking that some of that parasite stuff that I was taking yesterday. So we'll see how that works out. I felt better today too. So we'll see how that works out. We'll see if we can get that to come on down and get it under control. And obviously, I'll keep you up to date with it as we go. One of the questions was, and this was cute. This was on Facebook yesterday, and she asked me just a thought. This comes from Isabel. She said, a spiritual aspect, could a demonic attack be causing your high blood pressure? A demonic attack, trying to disrupt your testimony on God's innate healing power. I thought that was a cute question. I don't know how to answer that question, to tell you the honest truth. I thought it was a cute question, and but so I said I haven't figured it out yet. So all the options are still on the table. So if we can't, we're gonna keep working on it until we do figure it out. But it's if you don't have the answer to something, then all the answers are still on the table as far as I'm concerned. So I laughed about that last night when I got home, and I thought that was I thought it was a good statement. So who knows? I don't think I'm not leaning that way, but it's still there until we get it under control. And you could say that all that stuff, really anything that separates you from God, because if you look at the word subluxation, lux means light, sub means less than, and ation means a place. So a place less than light, and light, we are the light of the world. So if you're subluxated, you're in a state less than light. So you're separated from God as far as I'm concerned. And yes, that what separates you from God? God, I don't know. Or Satan, like, I don't know. Satan's what's trying to separate us from God. That's why I say sugar is the devil. Right? Sugar comes from the devil. It's trying to separate us from God. That's true. Sodas and all that stuff. I think all that stuff is. So if you want to get a good breakdown on blood work, and you want to run it through yours, and if you want some help with it, you got your blood work and you got some numbers on there you don't like, holler at me. I'd be glad to talk to you about it. I'm not your medical doctor. I'm not going to replace your medical doctor, but if you want just a conversation about it, I'd be glad to talk to you about that. So conversations we had today during the day. There were a few interesting conversations. It was we started this morning at 7:30. Now 7:30 bunch is really cool. Not that all the rest of them aren't, but everybody's trying to get to work, and so everything's kind of happening relatively fast. But I do have some people that have been working through some things, and I'm really proud of them because they've endured it. You know, we're in such a society where we just want everything really quick. We just want to fix it right now. It's got to be fixed right now. And sometimes you just got to work through those things. And that's why I feel kind of with my blood pressure, right? It's like I just got to work through it a little bit. I got to figure out where I've got myself in an environment that's incongruent with health. Well, we've got some low back stuff going on. We got some knee stuff going on. We got some feet stuff going on. All of that stuff and I'm proud of my guys that I'm taking care of, because they're working through those issues, and they're dealing with some of that, and they all want it to go away, and we're working on it to go away. But I look at those things as a challenge, and I look at them as a gift. It's like, hey, maybe it's teaching me something. Maybe I'm learning something from this process, and so that's what we got going on right there. The plan for tonight is to get through this article. We have tried for 3 nights now to get through this one article about natural pain reliefs, and I just want to keep going on it, because I really would like to get through it. Natural anti-inflammatory agents for pain relief. We've gotten through some of it. Surgical Neurological International, December 2010, a group from University of Pittsburgh Medical Center and Vanderbilt University in Nashville. And speaking of Nashville, I got a text from my brother today, got a picture of him. He's looking great. One of his high school friends came through Nashville, stopped and said hello. And my brother, he moved there to be a country music singer and songwriter. And He's still in research and development. One of these days he's going to hit it big and everybody will know his name. So I can't wait for that. But that's where this article's from, is Nashville. And it's talking about inflammation and what causes inflammation and what do you want to do. One of my nurses came in today. She's a retired nurse. And she made the statement. It's so funny. She made the statement about, she got sick last week. Something in her upper respiratory. They gave her prednisone, and she ended up with a clot in her leg. And she was so mad. She's like, "I'm never taking that again." And she's in her 70s. And she was, she's like, "I don't." And I said, "Why not?" And she's like, "Well, do you know what prednisone does?" I said, "Well, we actually did a show on prednisone last week, and we read it right off the NIH website. What is the mechanism of action of prednisone, right? And it's an anti-inflammatory and an immunosuppressant." And she was like, "But it's masking the symptoms. It's an anti-inflammatory." It's like, yeah, that's something I do want to address as we're going through this article, because I don't necessarily think you should treat symptoms with, if you're treating symptoms with supplements, you're allopathic. That's still allopathic medicine. It's still the opposite of. If you're giving the body the nutrients it needs to function properly, that's wellness. There's a difference between those two things. So when we're going through this, you kind of got to understand what you're doing with the supplements. And so that's what we're going to do tonight. We're just going to get right into it. We're going to get started with it, and hopefully we'll be able to move on to something else. Maybe not. I might talk on the whole time with NSAIDs and inflammation. It's just talked to a young girl today dealing with inflammation. She's been through all kinds of problems, been through all kinds of issues, digestive type stuff. She's dealt with a lot of digestive stuff. She's been to lots of doctors. She's done hair analysis, and she's just trying to figure out how come her stomach hurts when she eats. And so we were talking about some things, and I talked to her about omega-3 fatty acids. And she reminds me of a girl that we took care of a couple of years ago, that when she came into the office, she had an 85-1 omega-6-3 ratio. Now that's a big deal. An 85-1 ratio is very, very inflamed. And what I learned from in that case is that I don't believe she was absorbing in her small intestine and in her digestive tract. I don't think she was absorbing her omega-3s. Let's take a side note and wait. Wait, hang on 1 second. Let me see, because we got to come back to this in just a second. But I'm gonna stay on the thought, and then I'll come back to it in just this other thing in just a second. The lining, just to be very generic, the lining of, let's do it. Oh shoot! I just erased that whole thing. Oh, I hit the wrong button. The lining of the intestine. Think about it. If your mouth is up here at the top and you've got an opening at the bottom of your intestinal tract and you swallow something, how does it get into your body? Have you ever thought about that? Let me draw it different. Let me say that you got an intestinal tract running through there, and you've got an opening at the top and you have an opening at the bottom. And then you've got a blood supply on the side of it. So you got a bloodstream. You got an artery and an artery. Okay. You got a blood supply on each side of your intestinal tract. Now take food and put it in the top of your intestinal tract. Just take a piece of food and put it inside your intestinal tract, and it's going to go through your esophagus, and then it's going to drop into your stomach, and it's going to go into your small intestine, and it's going to work its way all the way through your intestines, and then some of that food is actually coming out the bottom end. right? But what about the food that's absorbed? Have you ever thought about how that happens? How does that how does that food how does that food get through the lining of your intestine and get into your bloodstream? Like what is the food? What is that actually going to mean? Right? That's glucose. Right? Let's take that one thing for example. Glucose, sugar. We got to have glucose, right? So we eat glucose in whatever form, whatever carbohydrate we're going to get it in. We're going to get some sort of carbohydrate issue. We're going to get some sort of molecule. We're going to get some sort of glucose, whatever it is. How does that glucose get into the bloodstream? Because when we talk about A1C, when we talk about hemoglobin A1C, what we're talking about is frosted flakes red blood cells. Those red blood cells that are floating around in your bloodstream, those red blood cells now have little pieces on top of them of sugar that's all connected to them. They're not cornflakes, they're frosted flakes. That's what we talked about last night, right? That's what hemoglobin A1C is. It's a 3-month test to see what the average is of how much sugar has accumulated on your red blood cells. Okay, where did the sugar come from? How did it get into the blood vessel? How did that sugar get in there? And how did it get through the lining of your intestinal tract? And how did it get broken down? See, there's some layers to this thing. There's some layers to this thing as to how you actually get your food into your body. And that's what one of the things we talk about is that leaky gut situation. So when you're supposed to have tight junctions inside all those columnar epithelium and that lining of that intestine, you got tight junctions in there. Got one cell super glued to another cell, and another cell super glued to that cell, and another cell super glued to that cell. There's nothing going to leak through those. But if you attack that and you make those shrivel up like SpongeBob out of the water, that's what I always think of when I do this right there. Now you got these gaps in those cells, and things can leak through there. They can leak through, and now they'll get into the bloodstream. So that's leaky gut. That's one thing that we talk about, leaky gut. So what if you get a piece of material that's not supposed to be in your bloodstream? It's supposed to be going out the bottom. It's supposed to end up in the toilet. It's not supposed to end up in your bloodstream. Because if the lining of your intestine was tight like it's supposed to be, there's no way that piece of whatever material that came through, it wasn't supposed to get through there. There's no way it could get through there if you had a tight junction. But if you don't have a tight junction and you've got these gaps, you've got leaky gut. Your gut is leaking and you get a particle, and that particle is going to get into the bloodstream. So what is that going to do to the immune response if the particle gets into the bloodstream? Now we got, it's like, dude, we got bad people on the streets. We got to call the immune response. We got to call the police. We got to call the army. It's like, hey, hold up just a second. We can't let these particles float around in our bloodstream. They're not even supposed to be in our bloodstream. They probably weren't even created when our DNA was created in the first place. It's probably something new. And so it's not supposed to be in the bloodstream. So what are we going to get? We're going to get an immune response. We're going to get an immune response because our immune system is like, whoa, hold up, dude. You're not supposed to be in here. Well, how did you get in here in the first place? So now we're going to capture that little piece of molecule and we're going to send it as far away from the heart and the brain as we can. We're not going to tolerate that little piece of molecule floating around in the brain. No, sir, you don't get to go to the brain. So it's going to take it out of your bloodstream. It's going to take it as far away from just reach your hand out like that. Just reach your hand, just straighten your arm and reach your arm all the way out and put it as far away from you as you can. The brain's like, no, that's as far away as I can get. I can even put it in your foot, or I could put it in your hand. And that's where your arthritis in your hand, a lot of the arthritic problems in our hands comes from. It comes from our gut. It comes from our gut that leaked. There's a piece of something that's in our body. We got to get it out. We can't. What it will do? It'll just put it in the joint of your fingers, and it'll go there. Okay. But what is the first? What is the first part of the immune response? Inflammation. Inflammation. It's like, man, we're always talking about inflammation. We're talking about inflammation in arthritis, and we're talking about inflammation in Alzheimer's, and we're talking about our inflammation in Crohn's disease, and we're talking about inflammation in all like skin conditions, in all of the things, right? Sinus infections, sinusitis. Have you ever heard that word? Sinusitis. It's itis of the sinuses, right? It's inflammation of the sinuses. Inflammation's all over the body. Well, that's one of the aspects that goes along with this whole idea that we've got some sort of like abnormal function going on in the body, right? Okay, now let's just back up just a minute, and let's say we're not dealing with leaky gut. Let's say we've got the proper gut connections. We got the tight junctions. On top of that layer, what actually happens is we have a layer on top of a very small layer on top of those cells, between the food and the cells. That's called the microbiome. And it's all up in there, like it's all over the whole entire thing. But you've got a group of bacteria and funguses and all kinds of stuff in there that are laying up against that cell. And what actually happens is the food is digested by the microbiome. The microbiome sends the process into the cell, and the cell absorbs it through the cell wall and then puts it into the bloodstream. It's your good bacteria in your gut that is digesting your food and getting it into your body. We're a team. This whole thing is teamwork. That's what's happening with us. That's why when I say sugar feeds the crackhead bacteria, that's what I'm talking about. Sugar feeds the bad bacteria that don't care anything about you or your development or what's going on. They're just in it for themselves. And the more you feed them, the more they grow. So now what we get is we get an imbalance. So then we get sick and we get an antibiotic. And have you ever wondered about the antibiotic? Does the antibiotic pick out specific biotics? It's against them, right? So does it pick out specific biotics, or does it drop a bomb on all the biotics? Just kills them all. Most of the antibiotics kill them all. So it kills a whole group of them right there. It kills the good one and the bad one. So now it's a race to see whether we get the good ones back in there. Okay? My girl that was 85-1 in her 6-3 ratio, what I believe is her microbiome was wrong, and she was not absorbing, because she ate fish sometimes. There's no way she should have been 85-1. It shouldn't have been that high. But anytime she had omega-3s coming through her digestive tract, they were not getting digested. They were just passing through. So she never got them into her system. She never got that omega-3 into her blood vessel. She never got it into the cells, into the tissues, because it wasn't getting absorbed in the digestive tract. We had to solve that problem. And she went to multiple doctors. She went to 3 medical doctors and a chiropractor trying to figure out her problem. And I'm not saying that I even know why we solved her problem. We did 2 things. I heard from Brenda Garcia, who's the nutritionist at the United Grocery Stores here in town. I heard from Brenda. Brenda told me about a guy in Dallas named Kenneth Brown. And if you want to find him, you can go Kenneth Brown, MD Dallas. and you can find him. And he runs a wellness type. He's a gastroenterologist, but he runs a wellness type place, and he sells some supplements that addresses small intestine bacterial overgrowth. Now let's take that SIBO, SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth. All right, you got your stomach, and now you got your small intestine. Why would you have bacterial overgrowth in your small intestine? One of the ways that you would get bacterial overgrowth in your small intestine is to decrease the acid in your stomach. If you decrease the acid in your stomach, then the food traveling from your stomach into your small intestine isn't sterile any longer. It's not, all that acid didn't burn it up like it was supposed to. And so what happens? Well, what happens is that you get bacteria into your small intestine, and when you get bacteria into your small intestine, it causes all kinds of havoc in there. We got to take a break. Hang with us for a minute. We'll be back. You guys on the radio, hang with us. We'll come back. We'll keep going on this. This will be great, and we'll see if we can get people healthier tonight by talking about some of this stuff. It does all fit together. You see, sometimes you got to just back it up and forward and look at it from a big picture and then look at it from a small picture. So stick around with us. We'll just keep looking at it. I don't know if y'all think this is as cool as I do. I mean, it's like you just keep studying it and you keep studying it, and then you read this article, and then it's like you can't even get through the article. It takes 3 nights to get through the article because you just want to take a sentence and you just want to break that sentence down. Like, you just really want to know. You want to look at, like, this is not a chiropractor. Like, this is not a chiropractor writing this, right? These are the guys in they're the medical field guys. And they're proving our point in wellness. It's just beautiful. I love it when they write their stuff the truth, right? These are Pittsburgh Medical Center and Vanderbilt. These are high dollar people right here writing this. And they're talking about how just, prostaglandins act as short-lived localized hormones, and a major component of the inflammatory pathway is called the arachidonic acid pathway. And cell membrane trauma releases arachidonic acid. And it's like, and then there's like a process that's going on. And then there's like all this stuff is happening at the same time. But you get to where you can read a sentence or you can hear a sentence, and it's like, wait a minute, that's not the truth. Or wait a minute, that's the truth. Like, yeah, that fits in with the other thing. And then that fits in with the other thing. And it's like, you start breaking it down, you get back into what's going on into the gut. And I'm not a microbiologist. Like, if you guys are super smart out there and you're trying to listen to this, you got to understand, number one, I'm not a microbiologist. I'm a wellness chiropractor. And I'm not going to spend all my day to where I can get my language proper to be able to communicate with microbiologists. You guys are going to have to come down to my level. You guys are going to have to come down to my level so that we can communicate with each other, right? But we're talking to a lot of people that are not microbiologists. So, but could a microbiologist or something say, Jason, that's not how that works. It kind of works more like this. Well, yeah, okay, sure. This is not the exact technical way that it's not like all the way down, but we're not that deep. These are just bigger thoughts. It's like, how do you get food into your blood vessel? And what does inflammation mean? And what if I took NSAIDs? And if I took NSAIDs, would it cause leaky gut? And if it caused leaky gut, would that be increasing my inflammation? Which would mean I have to take more NSAIDs. Hey, everybody, we're back. This is Life with Jason Clemens, DC, and we're just getting after it tonight. So hope you guys are enjoying this. We are talking about all kinds of stuff. We're talking about, what we're talking about is whether or not you want to take Boswellia. That's what we're talking about. It's like, okay, yes or no. Do you want to take boswellia? Well, okay. It's a deep subject. That's what we're talking about. So we're breaking it down and we're talking about all these different things and we're trying to decide what's going on in our gut and we're trying to figure out how the food got from the gut into the blood vessel and we're trying to figure out what's going on inside there and we're trying to figure out the conversation that I had today with the girl that's been to multiple doctors trying to figure out why her stomach hurts when she eats. Right? That's what I think is so inspiring about this stuff. It's like we're talking about some 28-year-old young girl from right out here in West Texas that was born and raised in West Texas. And all she wants to know is why does her stomach hurt when she eats? She's been dealing with it her whole life. Every time she tries to, they told her she's lactose intolerant. They told her that this, and it's like, she doesn't want me to break all this stuff down for her, right? She just wants me to help her stomach quit hurting. And then my lady this morning just wants me to help her foot quit hurting. And then my lady this morning just wants me to help her knee quit hurting. That's all she wants. But what I'm trying to say and what we do when we geek out on this stuff from 6 to 7 every night is we're saying, how do we do that? Because what I erased, and I'm not going to get too deep into it right now, but I erased this thing. My buddy sent me. MJ spent last night talking to one of our guys who's in chiropractic school right now. He's going to come back and join our big team of warriors. And he's in chiropractic school with Chaley, and they had a long conversation on the phone last night. And he sent him some Instagram chiropractor that doesn't believe in a subluxation and blah, 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 and all that sort of thing. And it's like, I don't have time. I don't have time to discuss I appreciate the kid. The kid needs to hear that stuff. He needs to hear the chiropractor say there's no such thing as a subluxation and all that stuff, right? Because he's got to be able to sort through the truth. But in reality is, if he would spend some time studying this stuff, it's like, dude, come on. What are we doing? So we had that conversation, and now I'm just trying to help these people get better. And when we look at this and we break it down, it's like, this is how it works. So when we're looking at this whole process, we need to make sure that the lining of the intestine is proper. We need to get the proper microbiome. How do you do that? You feed it the right foods and you stay away from the toxicities and the traumatic experiences that the microbiome has. When we do this processed, ultra processed food stuff, when we eat all this stuff from a box all the time and we eat all this processed food, we are feeding the crackhead bacteria in the gut the wrong stuff. We're feeding it the stuff that makes it grow, and we're not feeding the good bacteria the stuff. And you know that 80% of your immune system is in your gut? That's where your immune system starts, is right there, those little bacteria on the wall. You want them on the wall. You need them on the wall, right? You got to take care of those little dudes. And if you feed the good ones, then they keep the crackheads out of the neighborhood. And then now you got some good stuff going on in your gut. And you've got a good, strong immune system. And you've got a good, tight junction. And you've got good barrier between the outside world and what's going on inside your body. One of my ladies said this morning, I said, how you doing? She said, I'm stiff. And I said, what have you been doing? Eating sugar? And, well, yeah, I have. Okay. How does that work? How does eating sugar make you stiff? You eat sugar, then you get an immune response inside your gut. You get the crackhead bacteria to increase. You get an immune response inside your gut. You get a leaky gut type of situation. You get things in your bloodstream. Your bloodstream has to push them out into the tissue. It's like, get them out there and just store them in the muscle somewhere. Just put some crap out in there. It's just nasty stuff. Let's get it off into your muscles. and then your muscles they get stiff. You can't even bend your arm properly, right? That's what we're talking about tonight. So let's get back to the article, and let's see if we can get to Boswellia, right? Because what we're talking about, and I'm going to come back to some of this stuff because I love talking about this, but I do want to try to get to the end of this before the night is over. We're talking about things that you can do instead of NSAIDs, right? Like omega-3 fatty acids, white willow bark, turmeric, green tea. Those are all things that have been shown. Maritime pine bark was one of them. Boswellia is where we got to last night, and we stopped. But clinically, it is used in the treatment of degenerative and inflammatory joint disorders. Inflammatory, there's your information. There's your inflammation again. And degenerative, how did it degenerate? How did a joint degenerate? It degenerated because it had the wrong movement and the wrong chemistry. That's how it degenerated. What's the wrong chemistry mean? The wrong chemistry means we got the wrong things in the body that are not supposed to be in the body. That's the wrong chemistry. We all understand it with gas lawnmower motors, or like small motors of some kind where you have to pour the oil and the gasoline in there together and mix it all up, or in your boat or whatever. Like, you got to mix those things together, and there's got to be the right amount of chemistry. It's like 1/8 of a quart for every gallon of gasoline, whatever it is. It's like, okay, that's the ratio that you have to have in order to get the engine to run properly. It's like, well, what if you put 14 gallons of gas in 1/8 of a quart? Nope, that's not going to work. That doesn't have enough oil. What if you put 4 quarts of oil in there where 1 gallon? Nope, it doesn't work. The engine's not going to work. What if you put diesel fuel inside a gasoline engine? Nope, doesn't work. Right? Same thing, if you put a bunch of processed foods inside your body, you're going to get degenerative problems because your chemistry is going to be wrong. And this is one thing that Boswellia is going to do. It's going to inhibit. Boswellia can inhibit the leukotriene biosynthesis, thus affecting various inflammatory diseases that are perpetrated by leukotrienes, right? A combination of Boswellia and curcumin, which is turmeric, which at our house we use omega-3s and turmeric together as a powerful combination of anti-inflammatories. That's what we do. It says here, Boswellia typically is given as an extract standardized to contain 30 to 40% boswellic acid, 300 to 500 milligrams 2 or 3 times a day. All right, let's get to the next one. Phew, only took us 3 nights to get down here to resveratrol. Resveratrol is a plant-based polyphenol molecule that is found in many different plant sources, but the skins of red wine grapes are believed to have the highest concentration. In plants, resveratrol protect the plant from infection, excessive UV radiation, and aid in general plant defense. Resveratrol has also been found to have significant anti-mutation, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and DNA protective actions. Antioxidant, see, that's another one. That's I can't even get past this. Did you pick it up too? Did you pick it up when I said antioxidant and DNA protective actions when consumed by animals and humans? Antioxidant and DNA protective actions. What's that mean? You're not even getting to see this. I didn't put it up there for you. Sorry. What is antioxidant and DNA protective actions? Right? Here we go. There's our cell. There's our DNA. There's our mitochondria. You know what mitochondria have? They have DNA of their own, right? They make an ATP as the energy, but they also make a free radical, and the antioxidant stops the free radical from attacking the mitochondria and causing mitochondrial DNA damage. That's one of the things that resveratrol does for us. It stops that. It protects that inside that cell. What's that cell made up of? Omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids. Why do you need a 3-to-1 or less ratio? Because you got to have that cell wall proper. That cell wall, the average American is 25-to-1. So we got too many sixes. We got too many sixes. We can't get the antioxidant protection of the DNA, so that now the cell dies. Do you know that cancer, go read Dr. Seyfried. Cancer is related to mitochondrial dysfunction. Mitochondrial dysfunction. How did that mitochondria dysfunction? How did it get dysfunctional? Had too many free radicals attack it and not enough antioxidants. Why didn't we have enough antioxidants? Because we weren't eating resveratrol things like apples and grapes. We were eating sugar stuff like Pop-Tarts and Frosted Flakes. It's like no kidding. Like where are we going to get that protective information from, right? It's DNA. It's like now you read those sentences and it's like, yeah, I got that right there, right? It's antioxidant and DNA protective actions when consumed by animals. Most of the active research with resveratrol has been done in neuro and cardio protection, nervous system, and cardio protection, but several studies being reported on resveratrol's use for arthritic joint pain. Resveratrol inhibits this NF-kappa B and the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines. The typical dose for resveratrol is 50 to 500 milligrams daily. All right, let's keep going. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this. It's cat's claw. Cat's claw is the short version of the next thing on the list. The bark of cat's claw is used to treat arthritis, bursitis, and intestinal disorders. What do those three words have in common? Arthritis, itis, bursitis is just inflammation of the bursa, and intestinal disorders. What would intestinal disorders mean? I guarantee they mean inflammation. All three of those things are inflammation. The active ingredient appears to be polyphenols, flavonoids, proanthocyanidins, and tannins, alkaloids, and sterols. Doesn't matter what that is. It just means it's got some good stuff in it. Cat's claw inhibits NF-kappa B and the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines. Pro-inflammatory cytokines. Remember see, now you start to see it over and over and over again. The cells, the eicosanoids, the talking to one another, the release of cytokines. Remember where the white blood cell releases the cytokine to tell the hypothalamus to turn the temperature up in the body. All those things that increase inflammation, those things at the top of the list up here, the things at the top of the article where they said here, there's two main factors that control that inflammation has two primary causes. Inflammatory hormones like prostaglandin E2 and leukotriene B4, derived from omega-6 fatty acid and arachidonic acid, and inflammatory cytokines, all those ones right there. So that's what some of these things do, is they inhibit, like cat's claw, it inhibits the pro-inflammatory cytokines. Cat's claw can be consumed as tea, 1,000 milligram root bark to 8 ounces of water, or as a dry standardized extract in a capsule, 20 to 60 milligrams daily. And I'm just reading the medical doctor's article, okay? Capsaicin, chili powder, accentuates chili's stinging pungency. It produces highly selective regional anesthesia by causing degeneration of capsin-sensitive nociceptive nerve endings, which can produce significant and long-lasting increases in nociceptive thresholds. Nociception is that nervous system receptor that's detecting the chemistry in the tissue. Okay? It inhibits this NF-kappa B, thus producing anti-inflammatory effects. So, conclusion. We finally getting to the end of this deal. The conclusions. Anti-inflammatory agents such as NSAIDs can have undesirable side effects such as gastric ulcerations and, infrequently, myocardial infarction and stroke. For centuries, natural anti-inflammatory compounds have been used to mediate the inflammatory processes, and often with fewer side effects than NSAIDs. Right. It's what do they have before they had the Tylenols and the Advils and the Aleve and the aspirins? What did they have before that? They had things, right? So there is chemistry to inflammation. There is chemistry to arthritis. There is chemistry to gut problems. There's chemistry to skin problems. There's chemistry to brain problems. It's not happening just like the Easter Bunny or Santa Claus. It's not just it's not just like some sort of ghost made up thing that's going on. It's like to me this is so powerful because it's so powerful to your health and to my health. It gives me power to understand this stuff. It gives me power to say, look, arachidonic acid, an omega-6 fatty acid commonly found in cell membranes. What does that have to do with anything? Arachidonic acid, you eat corn or soy. This is in our eating for health deal, right? I've showed you this before. You eat corn or soy. Is there something inherently wrong with corn? No. Is it high in omega-6s? Yes. If you eat it every day, you eat corn chips today, you eat Fritos tomorrow, you eat vegetable oil when you cook your whatever tonight that you're going to cook, and you're going to eat some more chips tomorrow, and then we're going to go have some chips and salsa, and then we're going to go get a steak that's fed corn, and we're going to eat more corn, and what's going to happen? We're going to rise the 6th level, and we're going to keep raising it, and keep raising it, and keep raising it. It's going to be 25-1 at some point. It's going to be 85-1 at some point if something's wrong. It's too much 6s. And so what do those 6s do? They get carried through the metabolic pathways to arachidonic acid. And then what is the body going to do with arachidonic acid? It's going to use these little enzymes, the COX enzymes and the LOX enzymes. It's going to use, it's like, I need some help. The body says, I need some help. Like, I didn't get in this mess all by myself, right? Y'all heard that song? So it's like, give me some COX enzyme. You guys come along and break this arachidonic acid down for us. And what am I going to do? I'm going to turn the arachidonic acid into the prostaglandin. And the prostaglandin, what is the prostaglandin E2? What is that? What does that mean? It means, when you look, this inflammation has 2 primary causes: inflammatory hormones, prostaglandin E2, derived from omega-6 fatty acid, arachidonic acid. Inflammation has 2 primary causes. Number 1 is prostaglandin E2. How do I get prostaglandin E2? How do I get that in my body? How does it manifest itself in my body? It manifests itself in my body through an increased amount of omega-6s. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take the arachidonic acid and I'm going to use the COX enzymes to create prostaglandin E2. I'm going to create inflammation because that's what the body knows to do with a bunch of omega-6s. That's what omega-6s are for. They're for the body creating inflammation. Do I need inflammation? Absolutely. When I get a fever, that's inflammation. When I need to kill something, it's inflammation. When I create the healing process, that's inflammation. I don't need to get rid of all inflammation. I just need to get rid of it. I just need it to be in a 1-to-1 ratio with anti-inflammation stuff. I just need it to be mapped out that way, right? So I'm eating this food and it's taking that arachidonic acid to that prostaglandin, and my body, my innate intelligence God inside my body, my innate intelligence, is making inflammation because it's being told to make inflammation. It's not a mistake. I didn't mistakenly make inflammation. Something is telling my body, dude, you need to make more inflammation. And what is that doing? It's breaking down my joints. It's breaking down my brain. It's breaking down my bones. It's breaking down my muscles. It's causing all kinds of havoc inside my body because of that right there. And I'm just a guy from Roswell. And it's just like, okay, well, if that's how I get inflammation, how do I keep from getting that inflammation? And what you could do right now is you could just go to the internet, and I'll just click on it, and just type in the word COX inhibitors. And just see what it says. And just list of COX inhibitors, drugs.com. What are COX-2 inhibitors? List of COX inhibitors. And then you'll get a list of these things, like Celebrex and all the things that goes along with it, right? Like, let's see what COX inhibitors, specifically COX-2 inhibitors, are a typical non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug that targets the COX-2 enzyme to reduce pain and inflammation while causing fewer gastrointestinal side effects compared to traditional NSAIDs. And you could go in there and just look at what they aspirin and Aleve and all that stuff, right? Okay. What am I going to do if we look at our little, if we look at this right here and we say, all right, we got this massive amount of arachidonic acid, and now we're going to take a NSAID, we're going to take some sort of COX inhibitor. What does that mean? We're going to block that COX enzyme from helping us make prostaglandin E2. So what's the body going to do? The body's going to call in the backups and call in the LOX enzymes. And it says, look, I got to do something with this arachidonic acid. I got to do something with arachidonic acid. I've got too much of it. I can't just let it sit here. What are we going to do with it? We're going to take the LOX enzymes and we're going to make leukotriene B4, LTB4. We're going to make that with arachidonic acid. Look up here at the top of the article again. This inflammation has two primary causes: inflammatory hormones, prostaglandin E2, and LTB4, leukotriene B4. Those are two of the things we get from the omega-6 imbalance in our body. Is we're taking this arachidonic acid and we're moving it into these inflammatory hormones, and we're getting inflammation in our body. And the medical way of solving the problem is to block the enzyme. I mean, are we ever going to reach maturity? Are we ever going to say, wait a minute, Jason, are you serious? What you're telling me is that my intake of increased amount of omega-6s is causing an increased amount of arachidonic acid, which is causing an increased amount of inflammation? And I can control my inflammation by decreasing my 6s? That's exactly what I'm telling you. And I didn't make any of it up. It's science. You want science-based medicine? You want science-based stuff? You want evidence-based medicine? Quit eating your corn chips. Quit drinking your high fructose corn syrup. It's corn syrup. Am I against corn farmers? No. What is this? It's corn syrup. It's high 6s. And I'm going to drink it when I eat my chips and salsa, after I ate my fajitas that were cooked in vegetable oil, which there's no vegetable oil. There's no vegetable in the vegetable oil. It's not vegetable oil, it's corn oil. And what is corn? Omega-6s. And so what we've got this massive amount of arachidonic acid because we have this massive amount of omega-6. So I don't even need the COX enzymes I don't need the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, and I don't need the Celebrex, and I don't need the Vioxx, and I don't need any of the other prednisone or steroids because I don't need to block those things. Why? Look down at the bottom. EPA inhibits both of those things. When you get your 6:3 ratio under control and you bring your 6:3 ratio back down, it balances itself. So how do you get your 6:3 ratio under control? You decrease your amount of sixes and you increase your threes. How do you increase your threes? You eat fish. If you live in Lubbock where it's dirt, we don't have fish. So what do we take? Fish oil. Why? Because I'm trying to balance the 6:3 ratio. And I'm trying to control the inflammation in my body. I'm trying to decrease all of the detrimental effects of all that stuff. Right? That's some cool stuff. This inflammation is a factor in pain, cancer, thrombosis, atherosclerosis, insulin resistance, neurodegeneration, all of it. Inflammation's involved in all those things that make us sick and pain and hurt and tear up our lives and do all that stuff with us. And we can control it. We got the power to do it. Man, that was fun. We might come back to this article tomorrow night just for fun. So you guys, thanks for your time tonight. If I can help you, let me know. You guys have a great evening, and I'll be back tomorrow night at 6.